Hi, it's Mike, WB4HUC, and this week I'm going to continue sort of the video I made last week about using Win4IcomSuite with my Icom IC-7300. I found out after I made that video and just looking around for things related to that software, I found out that the author had added support for remote tuning controls to the software at some point. But my software was a version that was old enough that it didn't have that support yet. So I went to his website and I downloaded the current version of the software, which was 1.5.1.8. I had 1.2 something, I believe. Anyway, I downloaded this software and installed it, and sure enough, it does have support for the remote tuning controls in here. So how do you use it? How do you get it turned on? Well, I can only speak to the K-pod, but I suspect the others are similar. So why do I want the remote tuning control? Well, I got used to it with my Omni 7, my Ten-Tec Omni 7. I used it with the N4PY Pegasus Plus software. And without the tuning knob, it's just not as versatile as it is with the tuning knob. The tuning knob does stuff other than just tune the radio. And then when I bought the K4, I bought the K-pod and I use it. So I got used to having the tuning knob a little closer to me than just on the front of the radio. And it's sitting on the desktop, which makes it easier. You don't have to stretch your hand out and stretch your arm out and turn your hand up and grab the tuning knob on the front of the radio. So it's more comfortable, and I just got used to it. Well, the 7300 doesn't have a connector on the back for Icom's remote tuning knob, which I believe is the RC28. So if you're using the radio by itself, you don't get the option to use a remote tuning knob. But through this software, you do. And since I already had a K-pod, I decided to see if the K-pod would work with the Icom. I couldn't think of any reason why it wouldn't. So how do you do that? So you set up the first thing you do is you unplug the K-pod from the back of the K4 or the K3 or whatever radio you've got it plugged into. And you plug it into a USB connector on your computer. So you plug it directly into the computer. And when you do that, you'll see the lights light up. You can see this D1 light is lit and this light is lit. Those lights will light up so you know it's connected and getting power. And then you configure the Win4IcomSuite software. So we go here and we do tools, and we do settings, and we go to keyboard and controllers. And you should probably read all of this. And then for the K-pod, you just check this checkbox. And if you're using the RC28, you check this checkbox. And either one, you have to restart the software. So I checked this checkbox and I restarted the software. And when the software started, I turned the knob on the K-pod, but nothing happened. Didn't appear to be working. So I fooled around with it for a while. I couldn't get it to do anything. I emailed the author of the software at the support link, through the support link on his website. Told him the problem, and he got back to me within, I don't know, an hour, a little longer. Pretty quick response. He said I might have a conflict between the K-pod and another device plugged into a different USB connector on the computer. He suggested I unplug all USB devices, plug the K-pod in, get it working, and then plug in the other devices and see if I still have the conflict, or at least if I do have the conflict, when I plug in the conflicting device, the K-pod might quit working, and then I would know which one it was. Well, I'd want to do that. The computer sits under the table. I'd have to drag it out and get behind it and go through all that. And I got lucky. So it just so happened that I had the K-pod plugged into a USB connector on the front of the computer. And I also had my wireless mouse, the dongle for my wireless mouse, plugged in to another connector on the front of the computer. And then I think my cell phone was plugged into the third connector on the front of the computer. So all I did was I unplugged the K-pod and I unplugged the wireless dongle for the mouse, and I swapped them and plugged them back in. I swapped the connectors they were using and plugged them back in, and restarted the Win4IcomSuite software, and the K-pod then worked. So my conflict was resolved pretty easily, and I didn't have to go through the whole exercise of unplugging everything. So for me, I got it working pretty easily, and it's been working ever since. I haven't had any problems with it since. So once you do all that, of course now I don't have the K-pod attached to the K4, but I think I have a solution for that. I'll show you in just a minute. So how does it work? Well, I have it set to tune in 100 hertz increments, and you can see that here. I don't know if that's CL or CINC, and it's set to 100. So you can see, I'm going to turn the knob. You can see it's changing in 100 hertz increments, and you can also see the tuning indicator, the VFO indicator, moving in the pan adapter display. So it's working. So if you want to tune at higher increments, let's say kilohertz increments, on your keyboard, just press the plus key. And now we're at 1,000 hertz increments, and if I turn the knob, you'll see we're tuning in 1 kilohertz increments, and this is still moving. And then if you want to go back, just press the minus key. You're back to 100, and now you're down to 10 hertz. And then if you want to go back up to 100 hertz, which is where I usually leave it, and there we are. Now one thing to keep in mind is that the knob is going to tune according to this number, not according to where you're tuning with, let's say, with your mouse. So you can see I'm tuning in kilohertz increments here. But if I turn the knob, it goes back to 100 hertz increments. And I can go here and I can tune in 10 kilohertz increments, and I can go tune the knob and it goes back to 100 hertz increments. And either way, you can still see we're attached to the pan adapter, and that frequency indicator moves also. Oh, and I'll just make a short blurb about the pan adapter. I believe in the previous video I was using the pan adapter provided by the Win4Icom software. So you can tell the Win4Icom software that you're using an SDR play device, in my case an RSP1A, and it'll get its data to generate the pan adapter from that receiver and then display the pan adapter, and that all works fine. Nothing wrong with it. However, when I had my Ten-Tec Omni 7, and you're going to hear me mention the Omni 7 quite a bit. I used that radio for 10 years. It was my main station radio. I used the RSP1A to generate the pan adapter, just as I'm doing now, and I used the SDR Uno software, also supplied by SDR Play, to generate the pan adapter. And that's just what I'm used to. I'm not talking down or talking the Win4IcomSuite pan adapter down. I'm just talking what I'm used to. And we all like what we're used to, don't we? So So I went back to SDR Uno simply because I'm used to it and I'm familiar with it, and gives me the warm and fuzzies to use it instead of the Win4Icom pen adapter. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And then there's a couple of other things that the K-pod will do that I'll show you. So you can see this toggle switch here is set to VFOA. It's a 3-position switch, and you can see that the D1 LED is lit up. I'm going to put it in the middle position. The D2 LED is lit up, and now we're on VFOB. So when I turn the knob, this will not change, but this will. So as I turn the knob, now you can see VFOB is changing. And we're still in 100 Hertz increments. And then if I go to the 3rd position, the D3 light comes on, and now we're RIT-XIT. So if I turn RIT on over here, you'll see this change, and you'll see these two will not change. And now I'll go back to VFOA. So that functionality still works with the K-pod. And there's something else that still works with the K-pod. So when you're using the K-pod with an Elecraft radio, you can create macros in the radio that are activated by these push buttons. Well, you can do that here too. So if you go to Tools, Settings, and then go to Macros, I believe it's the function key macros. So you can write your macros, and then I believe you can push the button. I haven't done this yet, but you can push the button corresponding to the macro, and it will execute that macro. So F5 here will execute the macro assigned to F5 here. F1 over there on the other side would execute the macro for F1. So I haven't used macros with Win4IcomSuite, so I can't speak to anything other than what I'm telling you now. But I believe you can do that. So that functionality works. You still have your push button functionality. So all in all, it seems to be pretty complete implementation of the K-pod into Win4IcomSuite, and then by extension the 7300. So I have one controller and 2 radios. So what I'm going to do about that, I bought a switch, paid $10 on Amazon, a USB switch, which I didn't know there were such things until a friend mentioned it to me. But it's very small, and it's got one push button on it and 2 positions, 1 and 2. And it's got 3 USB connectors. So here I would take the USB cable coming out of the computer and plug it into one of these jacks, and then I would take another cable and connect it from here to the back of the radio, and that would connect the K-pod up to the 7300 through the software, and it would connect it up to the K4D directly in the back of the K4D. And then this other side has one connector, and that's where the K-pod will be plugged into. And then if it all works, all I got to do is push the button to switch between the 7300 and the K4. So we'll see how that works. I got to get I got to get cables together, and they're going to be too long. You know how that goes. Cables are either too long or too short. So I got to figure all that out. And then add to my mess of cables that are on the tabletop behind the radio. Anyway, so that's about all I have to say about the K-pod on the Win4Icom software. I mean, I can I'm going to unmute the radio.
Whiskey Alpha 9, Foxtrot Bravo Oscar.
Victor Charlie, I'll say again, Kilo Zebra 4, Victor Charlie, QSL.
Okay, so just to show you, band isn't real great today. I don't think the band has been real great for a month. But anyway, you can see everything's working. Pan adapter's working. The tuning knob's working. The mouse still works like it always did. So everything that worked before still works, just with the addition of the tuning knob. And I like having the tuning knob. So I guess that's about it. That's all I have for this video. I just wanted to show the K-pod in use with the Win4Icom software. And again, it doesn't have to be the K-pod. You can use Icom's controller, or I think there's others that are not necessarily built for ham radio, but they're shuttle jog controllers. Is that what they're called? And they have a knob that you can turn, and the software does support a couple of those at least for, and it may support more for tuning the radio. So just look into that if it interests you. And as always, thank you for watching.